From Kern Government Television, welcome to this week's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting, originating from the County Administrative Center located at 1115 Truxtun Avenue, Bakersfield, California. Kern County's vision is to create and maintain a customer-centered county government designed to garner the confidence, support, and trust of the people we serve. Today's Kern County Board of Supervisors meeting will convene momentarily.
Oh. Okay. I hear you. You make valid points. Okay, board to reconvene. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Supervisor Gleason. Supervisor Scrivener.
Here.
Supervisor Maggard.
Here.
Supervisor Couch. Supervisor Perez.
Here, thank you. Good afternoon, Kern County. County Council will please report on action taken in closed session. Thank you for tuning in. And Ms. Raizan, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Madam Chair, members of the board, this afternoon after your morning session, you met in closed session on items 58, 60, 61, and 6. No, hold on. 58, 60, 61, and 62. I'm going to get this right. I'm sorry. 58, 61, and 62 are the items that you met on. 59 and 60 were withdrawn, but there is no reportable actions on 58, 61, and 62.
Thank you very much, Ms. Raizan. Again, as mentioned during our 9 o'clock board session, the County of Kern provided notice that as a result of the declared federal, state, and local emergencies due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and in light of the governor's order, this Board of Supervisors meeting is not physically open to the public. Testimony and general public comment could be given through email or telephone to the clerk of the boards prior to today's meeting. We will begin by considering the consent agenda. All items listed with a capital C, capital A are considered to be routine and non-controversial by county staff. Consent items will be considered first and may be approved by one motion if no member of the board or public wishes to comment or ask questions. If a member of the audience wishes to comment or ask questions regarding an item or items on the consent agenda, they may do so prior to a vote being taken on the consent agenda. A member of the board may remove any item from the consent agenda and it will be considered in its listed sequence, with an opportunity for any member of the public to address the board concerning the item before action is taken. A member of the public may also comment on any closed session items. At this time, I'm going to read the consent items. They begin on page 2, include item 3. On page 3, item 4. On page 4, items 5 through 8. On page 5, items 9 through 10. On page 6, items 13 through 15. On page 7, items 16 through 19. On page 8, items 20 and 21 and items 22. The department is removing the recommendation and continuing the item to June 5th, 2020 at 2 p.m. On page 9, items 23 through 25. On page 10, items 26 through 31 and item 29. There is a correction. Strike the amount $11,964,823 and replace it with $12,705,057. That is to remain on consent. On page 11, items 32 through 37. On page 12, items 38 through 46. On page 13, items 47 through 54. And on page 14, items 55 through 59. I think on item 5, we also have a change, Madam Clerk, and that is to strike the recommendation and to come back at our next session, which is?
That would be Tuesday, April 21st, and this item will be continued to 2 p.m.
Well, you always know it all.
And I would like to report, Madam Chair, that we did not receive any comments regarding any consent items, and we also did not receive any request to pull any consent items from the agenda.
I appreciate that. Colleagues, do you have any comments on consent?
Motion to approve the consent
Thank you, Zach.
agenda.
We have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
Fantastic. So before we get started on the regular listed agenda for today, we do have to take an item from this morning that we continued due to the lengthy and complicated nature of informing the public and bringing them up to speed on where we are on COVID-19. I appreciate your patience. A is a request to temporarily modify the tax penalty waiver policy between April 11 and May 31, 2020, to waive the requirement to pay all interest, penalties, and costs up front when submitting a penalty waiver application. I understand that Mr. Kaufman is present and brilliant, as usual. So please come forward and tell us how you will be saving the county this go-round. We look forward to your bright and optimistic report, Mr.
Oh,
Kaufman.
boy, that's quite a setup. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. I have some prepared remarks. I'm going to, and then I will certainly be happy to answer any questions that you have. I also have with me Assistant Treasurer and Tax Collector Chase Nunley, who may also provide some answers as well. So, first, I would like to say that I absolutely understand and share the public's anxiety and concern over the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. As the county treasurer and tax collector, it is my responsibility to balance the interests of Kern County residents, businesses, and communities with the financial viability of our local agencies, schools, and essential services. And during times of crisis or disaster, this need for balance is most critical. So I want to talk a little bit about the deadline first, because there have been a lot of questions about the deadline and if it will be extended or not. So regarding the April 10th deadline, the property tax deadline, I'm going to say in general, neither the county nor I have the authority to extend or postpone the deadline. However, there is one very important exception to that I'm going to get to in a moment. The deadline dates are specified in state law, and so the state, in general, is the only entity that can postpone it. Through our continued discussions with state agencies, they understand that the financial impacts of a significant delay, 60 to 90 days, could be very problematic from a cash flow standpoint for local government agencies, special districts, and schools statewide. And this is not just a Kern County issue. This is every county in California would have potential cash flow issues. Approximately 1/3 of school funding comes from local property taxes, and so the schools are depending on this revenue source. So while my office cannot change the April 10th deadline for the second installment of property taxes, what we can do locally is waive penalties, costs, or other charges at the local level resulting from tax delinquency due to the circumstances that are clearly out of the taxpayer's control, related specifically to the impacts resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic crisis. So, specifically, the item before your board today is, again, to request a temporary modification to the board-approved penalty waiver policy to assist struggling taxpayers during this time of crisis. This policy currently states that in order to request a tax penalty waiver, the taxpayer must first pay the entire amount of the taxes and interest and penalties and costs due. And then, if that waiver request is approved, the taxpayer would get a refund of their penalties. So, due to the COVID-19 pandemic and its associated impacts, it's recommended that the requirement to pay all of the interest, penalties, and costs up front be waived for any penalty waiver applications submitted between as I wrote this speech, between April 11th, which would be the next day after the deadline, and May 31st, 2020. But I'm going to address that April 11th date in just a moment. So during this time, if approved, a taxpayer can pay the base taxes alone that are due, along with a special COVID-19 penalty waiver request. And then these requests will be reviewed on a case-by-case basis, but really through a compassionate lens that will give the benefit of the doubt to the taxpayer. While any taxpayer may submit a penalty waiver request, our approval focus will be on small businesses and individual homeowners that are directly impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. For those taxpayers that are able to pay on time, we strongly encourage them to do so, and to date, many taxpayers have already paid, and that is greatly appreciated. So I mentioned earlier that there is an exception to that allows counties to extend the deadline. So State Revenue and Taxation Code, Section 2619, states that if December 10th or April 10th falls on a Saturday, Sunday, or legal holiday, the time of delinquency is 5 p.m. or the close of business, whichever is later on the next business day. So it further goes on to say that if the Board of Supervisors, by adoption of an ordinance or resolution, closes the county offices for business prior to the time of the delinquency on the next business day or for that whole day, that day shall be considered a legal holiday for purposes of this section. So in English, what that means is that because your board has authorized the CAO to close county buildings, and before today, it was until April 14th. However, CAO Ryan Alsop just announced that that will be extended through April 30th. What that means is the new property tax deadline for Kern County is May 1st. So I will say that again. As it currently stands, the deadline for property taxes in Kern County is May 1st. So what that means is any payments received up until and including May 1st will be processed as a timely payment. So there's a couple things that I wanted to say about that. One, what we absolutely want to avoid is on May 1st, hundreds and hundreds of taxpayers coming into our building and waiting in long lines to pay their taxes. May 1st, we may still be in the thick of stay-at-home orders and everything else. In fact, there may be still statewide orders against gatherings that would prohibit these in-person payments in large amounts. So this is where I would implore taxpayers that would normally come into our office to make an in-person payment to utilize one of our very convenient alternate ways of payment. They can pay online through my website. They can mail in a check to our processing center, and we encourage them to do so. The other point I wanted to make is that obviously if your board extends the closure of county buildings even further, that is going to further extend the property tax deadline. So really with that, I would recommend that your board approve the temporary modification to the penalty waiver policy by waiving the requirement to pay all interest, penalties, and costs up front when submitting a penalty waiver application. And the recommendation is between April 11th and May 31st. And I'm not sure, County Council, if I can sort of change it on the fly, but really from May 1st through May 31st would really be the recommendation. And that concludes my prepared remarks. Things change rather quickly, and I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that you have.
Very good. I don't see anyone punched in yet, colleagues. Supervisor Gleason.
Thanks, great presentation. Thanks, great presentation. So what you're saying is okay, we're not gonna charge any delinquent fees if they come in later than the deadline. However, will that have any impact on their credit rating?
On our credit rating, no. No. So for property tax.
Okay, I got it now.
Oh.
Thank you.
Yeah, for secured property taxes, there is no impact to a person's credit rating, even if they are delinquent. Okay. That has nothing to do with their credit rating.
Thank you.
Supervisor Gleason, thank you. Supervisor Maggard.
Thank you. So if we do end up closing the building, say, longer than April the 30th, what are the implications and how do we get around that with regard to the cash flow issues? You said if we go 60 days out, 60 days from April 10, May, that's June 10, right? So let's kick that around. I have some more questions in a moment, but that issue first.
Sure. So from a cash flow standpoint, we have done a lot of analysis internally, and we've actually already started taking steps to increase our liquidity. We are investing a lot shorter. Typically, the total investment pool, about 40% of it which total assets are about $3.5 billion. So typically 40% of that is invested in a year and under maturity. Right now, we're pushing 45%, and that will go even higher. Over the next 6 months, I have about $1.2 billion in maturities that will come in. I am confident that a 30-day delay will probably not have too much impact. A 60-day delay, we should be okay. It's when you get a little bit farther, 90 days and longer, that could potentially pose a cash flow problem for the pool participants.
So can we adopt a policy, if necessary, that says that I'm going to make up a scenario, that the assessor's office is open for business on the curb and outside of our building, and people can drive by and hand off their payments to us?
Yeah, so I would say that if the closure is extended beyond May 1st, that we would have to make some type of alternate arrangements, whether that is, and CAO Ryan Alsop and I have had these discussions already about possibly even opening just this building, just my office, to accept cash payments so that we do not have to delay the deadline extended even farther. Obviously, health and safety issues are paramount as well, so we need to take those into consideration. But we would potentially find an alternate way to allow people to make some type of in-person or cash payments, but being very mindful of all the social distancing and all the other rules. I will say the majority of the people that pay in cash are the elderly, because they aren't as tech savvy, and the less affluent folks that don't have a bank account, and the only option they have is to pay cash. Now, we have been trying to get the word out that those people that normally pay in cash, we implore them to go get a money order, go get a cashier's check. I was actually down at Walmart yesterday with my gloves on, to their money center to see what the costs were, because I'm very mindful that adding any type of additional fee to these types of transactions can be problematic. For a money order up to $1,000, Walmart charges 88 cents. And so I know I was surprised at how cheap that is. Yeah, it's a lot more at the bank. Yeah, so
Did they have any toilet paper?
they did not. They did not. No. So we are encouraging taxpayers to try and find alternate ways to pay, because again, even when this building opens or when county buildings open, we want to avoid large gatherings of especially older folks that can be that are more susceptible to COVID-19 coming in large numbers.
Mr. Alsop, did you want to speak to that? You don't need to. I just thought I thought I got the nod you wanted to. So you don't have
Sure,
to.
Supervisor,
Okay.
through the chair, I would just concur with what Mr. Kaufman said. We have been talking and will continue to talk, and if this goes, seems to be going any further than a 30-day respite period that we're having, then I would work with him to figure out a way to do this safely, so that those folks who are paying in cash can show up and do it. And I believe we could probably find ways to take care of it. In the meantime, I think we'll work with, to the best of our ability, with Mr. Kaufman's office to figure out how we can help him communicate and put the word out, whether, in both English and Spanish media, that the preferable way is the variety of different ways that he has available that are not showing up with cash. And we'll do what we can over the next 30 days to communicate that. And hopefully at the end, if we do need to go to some extraordinary circumstances to collect cash payments, it'll be relatively few people
Yeah.
who are here.
Ryan, I think that's excellent. I think you're right. If we have to intervene in this special, unusual circumstance and make some opportunities where we're not asking senior citizens to break the governor's order, for example, right, and even our own local advice. So I do think we can deal with it on a case-by-case basis as well. That is very inexpensive. And, you know, many stores are offering senior hours, right? So, I mean, I think if we can really communicate out there, we're not doing a standstill in humanity, right? I mean, we are being very, very cautious, but there are these other opportunities to take care of these matters. What about the 2% credit card fee?
Yeah, so that question has been brought up quite a bit. The 2% credit card fee is passed along directly to the credit card companies, so we do not keep that processing fee. I have reached out to the credit card companies through our primary bank and to see if they are willing to waive any of those fees. Thus far, the answer has been no, they are not willing to. And the amount that is passed through is significant, and I would say a little more than I could absorb in my budget. From a full year perspective, we collect and then pass through roughly $600,000 in credit card fees. And so keep in mind, this is the second installment, so you cut that in half, and we've already received some payments, so you cut that a little bit farther, but still, you're probably talking $150,000, $200,000 in credit card fees that are passed through. So that would be a challenge. I will continue to push on the credit card companies. However, Visa is slightly larger than the county of Kern, and not necessarily.
Not for long.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Supervisor Maggott, I hope I didn't cut you off.
Oh, it's okay.
Forgive me.
I have a second question, though. Now, let's talk about those taxpayers who cannot pay. So the largest property taxpayers in Kern County are oil companies.
Yeah.
Oil's 16, 18 bucks a barrel.
Yeah.
All the issues that we, the worst perfect storm possible is hitting us at once. So are there alternatives for them as they pay their installment? Is an alternative for them to make installment payments to you? I'm not begging just to help some big business. I'm trying to keep people employed. And as I understand it, it is so dire that there's about 100 of these oil companies. They employ 20,000 people in our community directly. If they're trying to decide whether they pay on April 10th, they pay property tax or payroll, they're going to make that decision. So some people won't get paid. So there are other remedies for those people, but bottom line is, can we work out, is anything in the offing for us to work out an arrangement for them to pay installments? Can they post a bond and guarantee that the payment is coming? What alternatives do we have to help them manage their cash flow?
So some of those are sort of legal questions. I have to make sure that I don't violate state law in allowing taxpayers to pay late. Obviously, this is a dire hopefully once in a lifetime situation. The action before you is going to help, is going to assist, because it will allow taxpayers to pay later and still only have to pay the base taxes up front. Again, they'll fill out a penalty waiver request. We will be reviewing those on a case-by-case basis. But we really are going to be looking at the impacts. Now, we want to try and make sure that the impacts are directly related to COVID-19. And I know the impacts to the oil industry are sort of twofold, right? They are impacted by COVID-19 from a demand standpoint, but a a lot of the reasoning behind the price of oil being so low is actually I don't know, war between, the price war between Saudi Arabia and Russia. And so while my office will be, for lack of a better term, lenient when looking at these penalty waiver requests, they will still be reviewed on a case-by-case basis. I will say never in the history of California tax collection has a financial impact or lack of funds ever been a legal justification for not paying your taxes on time. But again, this is, that is how serious this issue is, and that is how much, obviously, we and your board, my office, want to help taxpayers and want to avoid taxpayers having to make the decision, like you said, of paying their taxes or laying a bunch of people off. We also, however, I did mention, our focus is going to be on individual homeowners and small businesses. I am working with my statewide association to try and come up with some guidelines around that, because from a statewide basis, we all want to be fairly consistent in how we approach these types of penalty waivers. I mean, we're all sort of in the same situation, and there are many property owners that own property in multiple counties. We want to try and avoid them getting a different answer from, a bunch of different counties. So we are working towards coming up with some consistent guidelines around how we're going to look at those. But I will be perfectly honest, we'll probably be pretty lenient at this point because of just the dire situation.
Thank you for that.
The landlords that are I think are in the crosshairs here, the governor's mandating that we not evict people. I don't want to evict people either, but bottom line is, a lot of people aren't going to pay their rent on April 1st.
Right.
This payment's due on April 10th.
Right.
And payday is going to come April 1st and April 15th, or whatever the pay schedule is for many, many employers. So how, the decision about whether or not people are going to be laid off, the decision about whether or not they're going to make their payment on April 1st or April 10th, those decisions are going to be made in a couple of days from now, because, April 10th is 10 days from now. So are you available by conference call with those that need to work out whatever arrangements they have? I've always advised people that if you can't pay your bill, you don't just not pay your bill. You call them and say, here's my situation, here's my plan, here, I want you to know what to expect. Are you geared up to accommodate that?
So, the good news is that the deadline is technically extended through May 1st. So the decision to pay or not pay right now has now been pushed for a month, roughly. And then again, after that, there's the penalty waiver process so that they could pay a whole nother month later and still just pay the base taxes up front. I am hoping that we will have some staff back in the office, possibly in May, to help with some of these issues. The first thing I'm going to do is set up sort of a team to review all of these penalty waiver requests that I'm sure we will get. I think one of the critical pieces, obviously, right now is getting this information out there. And I certainly welcome the CAO's assistance in doing that. I will be sending out a press release, putting it out on my social media, and any other way that we can get the word out of all of these things, of the extension of the deadline, of this change in the penalty waiver process, all the alternate ways to pay, all of that information, and I think as Ryan mentioned, in English and in Spanish, because that is very important.
So my last question, and thank you for accommodating the range of questions I'm asking you. Do any of these decisions fall to us, or are all of these decisions yours, other than when the building is or is not open?
The review of the applications really falls to my office. The penalty waiver process, or the penalty waiver policy is a board-approved policy, which is why I'm coming to your board asking for a waiver of that particular clause in it. But the review of the applications does fall to my office.
Very good. Thank you.
Supervisor Maggard, thank you for asking the questions that I wanted to ask, many of them, and thank you for the clarification. Supervisor Scrivener?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First thing I'd like to say is, Mr. Kaufman, you've been really great through this process. I know that this is a very difficult situation for you to manage, and the fact that you're wanting to do the best that you can to come down on the side of the taxpayers and help to ease their burden through this very difficult time, but also to balance that with your duty to the county and make sure that we are watching our cash flow and the school districts that depend on you and the special districts. That's a big responsibility right now. I mean, you always have that responsibility, but you know, in this situation, it's particularly difficult to manage those two things. So I want to tell you, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I appreciate you participating in a meeting with me yesterday via teleconference with some of the oil companies and their association to kind of talk through the same issues that Supervisor Maggard was bringing up. Because truly, for the reason why the feds moved the deadline to pay your taxes is because we want to keep more money in the hands of people. We understand that we have a situation here where maybe you're not working, et cetera, and so this is some relief. And so, of course, that led everybody to say, okay, well, what about property taxes? Because we're having the same issues looking at paying on that April 10th deadline. And so I've had small businesses reach out to me, individuals reach out to me, and also some large employers. Or larger in comparison to what we might think of as a little mom and pop convenience store or something like that. And so I agree with the deadline that we're looking at, that you're setting, but I fear that we may be back to re-examine that deadline based on what's going on with this pandemic and how much longer this stay-at-home order is going to be at place, et cetera. But the thing that I think we need to continue to focus on, and I know you will, and I know that this board will, is that we are going to look at that cash flow situation that may come up, and you're looking at 60 days before it gets problematic. There may be some other things at our disposal as far as the county is concerned to try to manage that if that does become an issue. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to look past the clerk here, excuse me. But the idea, sorry, I lost my train of thought there, but the idea ultimately is to try and prevent a situation where we see people that are losing their homes, losing their businesses, and not being able to make payroll, et cetera. And so as we continue to navigate this, I appreciate your posture, which is we're going to look on folks favorably. I've heard you use the word lenient, that kind of thing. But when you work with your association to look at that definition and try to keep that consistency with the other treasurers and tax collectors, okay, we're all on the same page. These are the types of resident. We want to protect these or help these residential property owners. These are the small businesses we're looking at. I mean, we have some large employers here in Kern County that have, tremendous impacts to our economy with the payroll that they provide. The fact that their employees can go out and they can make those purchases that provide the sales tax, et cetera, et cetera. They have homes that they have to pay rent on or mortgage on every month. And so that to me is the truly difficult balance that you're going to continue to have to strike. And I really appreciate where you're coming from on this and also what it is you're having to deal with. But I would ask you to look at that scope very broadly on what types of businesses we are wanting to try to assist through this policy that we're implementing and may have to revisit, and I hope we don't have to extend, but I think we need to go in this eyes wide open that we're likely to be looking at that. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Both excellent points. The first point being that things are changing rapidly and continue to do so. And so if we need to come back because things got worse and we need to extend farther, we will revisit that. And absolutely, one point I didn't make is that, you know, while we may have a focus on certain things, individual homeowners, small businesses, anyone, any business, any individual will be able to submit a penalty waiver application, and they will all be reviewed. And we're going to really look at everyone under the you know, not just under the guidelines that we will develop, but again on a case-by-case basis, so that if we see that the impact is really you know, huge or catastrophic to a business, we will take that into consideration.
All done, Zach? Thank you. Supervisor Maggard, will you still? Thank you. Supervisor Couch.
Sorry. I think you said you were about 600,000 in fees, half that's already been paid, so now you're down to maybe 300 that it would cost you. And some of that's already been paid, so now you're somewhere below that. And your issue on why you don't want to waive those fees is, one, the credit card companies aren't waiving them, it's costing you, and it's a budget issue for you. You budget how much you're going to pay for credit card fees, because you have to eat that. Or the taxpayer pays it, but you pay it to pass through for you.
It's a pass-through.
Should we incentivize people who can pay right now with their credit card by offering to pay for those fees? If we're able to make a budget amendment for you to assist with that?
Yeah, I mean, we would certainly welcome any assistance if the county wanted to backfill. I mean, I understand the budgetary pressures are going to be mounting for everyone, beginning immediately. But that type, we would absolutely consider something of that nature. I will also say that
Because can I jump in and ask you a question?
yeah,
You're not open, and you don't have people out at the curbside taking checks.
correct.
So I've already paid mine, but if I wanted to pay, I'd wait. If I hadn't paid yet, I would wait because I don't want to pay the credit card fees, and that's my only option really right now, right?
No. So I'm
mailing
sorry.
it in.
So I wanted to make that point. So I'm glad you brought that up. When you pay online on our website, there are two different options.
Okay.
You can pay with an e-check, which is an ACH, which is essentially you put in your bank account number and your routing number, and that is free. There's no fees at all associated with that. And that is the best option, and we push that. If you are using a credit card or a debit card to pay, that's where the 2% fee goes in. So there is absolutely a no fee option to pay online. You know, unfortunately, as times get tough, though, people may not have any other option besides paying with a credit card. However, we've seen an uptick in credit card usage over the last 2 years because people want the points, people want the miles, and they're willing to pay the 2% fee because they get miles and points. So, you know, human behavior is an interesting thing.
I'll move on the recommendation.
Supervisor Couch, any other comments? Supervisor Gleason, I see you.
Second.
County Council, can we receive some clarification from you, please, per our county clerk?
Yes, I just wanted to make sure, Mr. Kaufman discussed a number of different items, but the only matter that is before your board this afternoon that requires any action is that is contained in his letter. So while other things have been discussed and will no doubt occur, the actual matter before you for your consideration. It's
And-
just the recommended action.
And Madam Chair, can I clarify that with Mr. Kaufman? So the item, as the item reads on the agenda, are there any changes to the dates on those items? So the request was to temporarily modify the tax penalty waiver policy between April 11 and May 31, 2020. Is that still correct?
So technically now it would be May 1st through May 31st, instead of April 11th through May 31st, because no one's going to be submitting a penalty waiver request before May 1st, because it will be a timely payment. You won't have to. And that action or announcement just occurred today after I submitted the letter, so.
Okay, so my question is to County Council, can the summary of proceedings state the date of May 1 through May 31 on this item? Or must it state the same dates that were on the agenda that was posted? That's my question.
Actually, Madam Chair, if you would indulge me just to direct a question directly to Mr. Kaufman. My interpretation of what you are now doing doesn't change the start date. There's still going to be a waiver of penalties from April 11th through May 31st. So it still is an accurate, as written, it remains accurate.
And that's fine. That's fine. It's really a technicality.
Thank you, Mr. Kaufman, right? It's Kaufman.
Yes, thank you.
So, anyone else? Okay. You're pleased that the record has been set?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for your flexibility. I'll tell you from a personal standpoint, our industries have been pummeled, literally. So, the idea of creating any more anxiety in that process is painful, and I know that you know that. And I appreciate your flexibility, and we will get through this, Jordan. This is the community is coming together in really magical ways, and I'm very pleased by that. And you're a big part of the balance, right, of how our people feel about investing in Kern County, about staying in Kern County. That's our lifeblood. So, balance is important, and your needs are important as well. So I really, really appreciate you and your team. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes.
The motion is approved. All ayes.
Thank you, Jordan. Okay, it looks like I have one correction to read into the record, please. And this is as to item number 21, no. 22, excuse me. I misstated earlier and said that the matter would be moved to June 5 at 2 p.m. It's June 2 at 2 p.m. We had a typo. That is corrected. We do not have a meeting on June 5. We have a meeting on June 2. And then also, I would like to entertain a motion at this time. Oh, my goodness. Boy, thank you. April 21, but I forgot to do public presentations. Ms. Kraus, do you have anything?
Madam Chair and members of the board, I did want to report that we did receive from the same caller this morning, Mrs. Emily Harvey, we did receive a second voicemail restating her request that the overflow, she included overflow from Kern Medical or the hospital overflow, COVID patients, and homeless patients affected by COVID-19 be moved to Weed Patch. So I'm just reiterating the first voice message that was sent a second time. But I'm not playing it again because she included her phone number again, and I do not want to include her phone number for the public.
Well, just please feel free to give her Supervisor Couch's direct line. Thank you very much. Anything else, everybody? Okay, okay, and board member announcements or reports, colleagues? Otherwise, we will adjourn to April 21 at 9 a.m.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Zach. Without objection, so ordered.